Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. I know it's been a while since we made one of these, but I've been getting this request left and right, and that's how to edit in Adobe Premiere. I've been getting this request from so many of my friends, so many of the people I've met, and they're like, oh, I've seen you edit videos, I really want to get into that myself. How do I get started? Well, that's why I made this crash course. This is actually a 3-part series, so make sure to check out the other videos when they're out. And if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and smash that like button. And follow us on our social medias, links down below. Lastly, make sure to stick around till the end, and I promise you, you won't regret it. So without further ado, let's get this Adobe Premiere tutorial started. The first thing you're gonna see when you open Adobe Premiere is probably something that looks similar to this. What we want to do first is click here to create a new project, and then we can name it whatever we want and save it to any location. I don't really mess with any of the default settings because I think they're good the way they are, but what I do change is the render settings right here. And if you have more than one option, I suggest you picking the one with CUDA on it. And CUDA is something from NVIDIA that makes your rendering time so much faster. So click that and then click OK. The next thing you know, you're thrown into your workspace and you're like, Lucky, oh my god, there are so many boxes, I have no idea where to start. Everything looks super confusing, like, tell me what's going on. And I get it, when I first started, I had no idea what was going on. Luckily, I had my sister to give me some tips. So the first thing you want to do is kind of look around and just familiarize yourself with each of these sections. We have the program, effects controls here. I mean, there's plenty of boxes around. But what I like to do is kind of organize my workspace. What I found best is we click on one of these tabs here, and these are like pre-made templates for us. Just click around, feel it out, and then kind of figure out what's your style and how you want to kind of organize yourself. If you don't see this tab up here, we can just click here to Windows and then go to Workspaces, and then here are the pre-made workspaces for you. So what I did first is I clicked on the effects one, and then I kind of customized it and saved it on my own. So I have one right here called Lucky's, and which is mine. You get it. So right now I'm gonna go through each of these sections and kind of explain to you guys, what each of the sections are for and what each of the buttons mean and some shortcuts and whatnot. But first thing we want to do is create a sequence because there's nothing on the timeline. What we could do is click here on new item and click sequence. But what I found best and what I prefer is to import one of my clips that I'll be editing, and Adobe Premiere will automatically put in the sequence settings for you to match the clip. So what we're going to put in is probably just something from one of our drone shots from Italy. So I'm going to import that right now, and here we have one of the drone shots, and this is where all the previewing will happen. Right off the bat, we can go here to sequence settings, and then right here we would check out the settings for the entire video. What I like to do first is click here on editing mode and then click on custom, so I have complete control over what I'm working with. So what you see here is the time base, and this is the frames per second. So my clip here is 59.94 frames per second, and it's that 60 FPS where you can slow it down when you render in 30 frames, but we'll go into the frames and slow motion in another video. For now, we're just gonna keep it at 59.94. So this is the frame size, and we're talking 1080p, we're talking 4K. We're gonna keep ours at 4K right now, and keep this square pixels at 1.0. And usually these I don't change all that much because they're the settings that work best for YouTube. And audio, I just leave it at 48,000 Hertz. You could change it to 96,000, but our ears probably won't notice that much of a difference. And then here we have the preview file format. I like to keep mine at MotionPeg. We're gonna keep it at maximum render quality, and we're gonna click OK. If you're kind of lagging and your computer is not that great, you can turn this one off. And then everything else is kind of self-explanatory. Like most of this, the only stuff I really use is like up here. So we're gonna click OK, and click OK here. Next thing we're gonna do is check our preferences, because we gotta make sure everything is set in stone before we start editing. So we're gonna go right here and edit, go to our preferences, and we can just open up general. So what I like to do is go through each of these tabs and make sure everything is what I want it to be. Sometimes you don't even know what like some of the settings mean, which is okay, you don't really need to. But what I did when I first started is kind of just change the appearance of everything, so we can kind of change the brightness of Adobe Premiere, we can change the interactive controls. I mean, it's just their preferences, So, but what's important is right here in the autosave, and I bet you anybody that's ever made a video that they've lost a lot of progress just because something didn't save. And a cool feature in Adobe Premiere is that they save your work for you. Now you can change how often that happens. So I like to set mine every 10 minutes, and I edit really kind of slow. So, I mean, 10 minutes is perfect for me. But like I said, you should go through each of these settings, you know, get familiar with it. Most of them you don't really change all that much, but make sure you have enough memory going on. Make sure you like the appearance. Make sure, you know, you like your audio the way it is. You know, just take your time to go through each of these settings. All right, now that we're done with preferences, we're ready to look at some of the editing components of Adobe Premiere. So the first thing we want to do is click on the clip that we imported before. And right now we can see here is effects controls. There's a lot going on in just this one section, right? So first thing here is our timeline. This is the full timeline of the clip, and we can usually move this and go, you know, frame by frame to see, you know, what's in this clip and whatnot. And then on the left here, we have the video effects. First thing we have here is the motion. This controls the clip itself, and once we click on it, we can kind of move it. But I'm gonna put this back right here. So under that, we have position, and this is the X and Y position of the clip itself. Now we can take this and change it to 1000, and we can see that it moves to the left. And then if we change it back, we're back into the center, and then this moves the clip up and down. And then here we have scale, and this is that 100%. We can either zoom in to maybe like 150%, or we could kind of zoom out to maybe like 50%. And then any of these buttons over here will reset it to its default value. I keep mine at uniform scale because I like everything uniform. If you didn't, then it will scrunch things up with the height and the width. Next, we have the rotation, and that's self-explanatory. You can rotate it 90 degrees if you want, maybe 180 to flip it around. Whatever works for you, whatever you're editing. This is where you would go for rotating. And then this is the anchor point. This is where the center of the clip is bounded by. So if we were to change the anchor point on maybe like this and this, then click on motion here, we notice that the anchor point is no longer, you know, in the center of the clip. And then it will rotate on this axis. And then anti-flicker filter, I don't really know what this does, to be honest with you, but I don't use it that often. It doesn't really help with flickering, so I don't really work with this. And now here we have opacity, and this is how transparent your clips are. Right here we can change the opacity to maybe 50%. And then if I put another clip in there, and then we're gonna just put it right under, you can see that this one, the first clip, we're changing the opacity, and it's kind of transparent, and you can see the other clip behind it. So that's what opacity does. And here we have the blend mode, and usually we don't really use this, but this gets into more advanced stuff in Adobe Premiere and editing in general. And then if you expand this tab, you're going to see a lot of blend modes, and most of them I haven't really even used before, but what I've used most is this one called screen, and it takes away all the dark sections of your video and then kind of blends it in with your other clips. So let me show you right here. So we're going to take this clip and we'll click screen, and as you can tell, it's kind of blended, you know, 50-50-ish, and it's taking all away like most of the dark spots away from this side. It's kind of weird. I mean, it's kind of very niche on its use, but you know, if you do your research, you might be able to do some cool effects like a linear burn. I don't know when you would really use this. It kind of looks weird, or like a dissolve. You know, just play around with it, see if you ever want to use it. So here under opacity, we have 3 different tools. We have a free draw one, a pen. We have a 4-point polygon mask, and we have an ellipse mask. And what a mask is let's take this free draw pen tool, and let's say we want to mask this hill out, right? So we're gonna just do a rough mask over here and then connect it, and then it would kind of mask out the first clip, and then everything else under it would appear in the background. So it's basically kind of just taking scissors and cutting out the section you want. And then under here, we can change the mask feathering, how rough the edges look. And then we have the opacity once again. And then this is kind of expansion. So you can expand it, get those round corners in there, or make it even smaller. And then lastly, we have time remapping. This is the section that controls all your speed ramping and your slow motion. And it's a little bit complicated, so we're gonna come back to it. And with all these video effects, we're able to change them over time if we want to, work with some of what they call keyframes. So let's say we wanted to change the position over time. If we would click the stopwatch here, which is toggling the animation, it would create a keyframe right at the front over here. And then let's say we started off all the way on the right. And then as the clip progresses, we want it to come back to the left over here. Now, this is not what I actually would do, but you get the point. So when we play it back, we notice the clip going from right to left. And you can literally do this with any of the clips. So if you want to get rid of all the keyframes, you just go ahead and select all of them and delete. And then if you don't want to actually do the animations, we can click here and untoggle the animation, and usually it would delete all your keyframes too. So you could do the same thing here with the scale. So let's say it's 100%, and then over time you want it to zoom in to maybe 200%. Now if we were to play it back from here, it would do a straight zoom into the center to 200%, and then it would stop. So now that we finished video effects, we're gonna go on the flip side of things and do audio effects. I already imported a song that I got from Epidemic Sounds, and we can go here and double click on the track to expand and see the waveform if we wanted. But what we're gonna do is click on the audio track here, and instead of video effects this time, we see audio effects. Now if you have a clip that has video and audio attached to it, you would see the video effects first and then audio effects at the bottom. But audio effects is actually much more simpler because we have less things to worry about. Usually I don't touch the bypass over here, but what we do work with is the levels, and the levels is what changes our decibel level, which is how loud or how quiet the music or the audio clip is. So right now we're at 0 decibels. We're gonna turn off the animation because we don't wanna change it over time. And let's say it's a little too loud, or actually let's listen to this clip first. Now, if this clip is too loud for you, we can, tone it down, maybe minus 10 decibels. As you can hear, now the clip is a lot more lower than before. We can also change the volume to be louder. We're gonna do maybe like 6 decibels, and I do believe 6 decibels is the max you can increase it to, because you don't want to blow out someone's ear. But this is what it sounds like. Turn down your volume if you think it's gonna be too loud. Now under here we have the channel volume, and this kind of changes the loudness of the left side and then the loudness of the right side. Again, I don't really use the bypass all that much. I don't really use channel volume in general because I don't really like to mess with like the left side of the audio or the right side of the audio. So, but it's good to know that this is here. And then panner, yeah, I don't use panner at all. So now that we got through kind of this first section over here, we're gonna move on to over here. Now you probably already seen these are all your project files, and this is kind of self-explanatory, but you have each of the project files. Here is all the information about them, and we're gonna go through some of these icons over here. The first one over here I don't really use, and so we're gonna skip that, and we're skipping a lot of things over here because this is a crash course and it's intended to be just focusing on things that I use on a daily basis. I don't really use this one, but if you have a lot of clips and you're kind of confused on what to look for, we can look for like the name of it and then find the clip and whatnot. But usually I don't use that. Here we can create a folder. If you're a lot more organized than I am, you can create a bin right here, and we can put things inside the bin. But what I do use is something called the new item section right here. What we can do is create a new sequence, which I told you guys before that I like to just drag my clips in to create a new sequence. But if you're nesting sequences, which is a little bit more advanced, you can create multiple sequences using this. But one of the biggest things I use is this thing called an adjustment layer. And these are the default settings based on your sequence. We're going to click OK. What we want to do is be able to drag it onto our timeline. And if we zoom into our timeline, which I will show you guys later on how to do that, we could take the end of the adjustment layer and click it and drag it all the way to right here. So it matches whatever clip we have under it. essentially what the purpose of the adjustment layer is that any changes or effects that you apply on the adjustment layer, anything below it will also get that effect. Another thing I use is the black video, and it's a black video. I mean, what more can I say? It's a black video. Some of these other things I don't really use, but they might be helpful, such as like color matte. It's kind of the same thing as black video, except you pick the color. And then maybe like a universal counting leader. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys seen these cheesy stuff. Now, again, feel free to kind of experiment on each of every one of these just to explore your options, you know, see what you have here. And what's kind of taken out in Adobe Premiere 2018 is the text. So if you're on Windows, you can click Control T, and if you're on Mac, you can do Command T. But if you do that, it's gonna open up a new title, and we can click OK. And here we can create text, you know, so create a text box, type in whatever text we want, that sort of stuff, and you have all your settings over here. Yeah, that's how you create text nowadays. So thank you guys for watching. Here's a little small token of appreciation, but I know we're a little bit late on this, but thank you guys so much for 1,000 subscribers. After this video, we're probably gonna be uploading our 100th vlog. I think it's kind of amazing the reach you can have with 1,000 subscribers, because we've had comments, we've had messages saying like, yo, you've really inspired me to get into video editing, or you've gave me the courage to go traveling on my own. And it kind of just blows my mind, because I know we could do even more in the future. So this is a small milestone, and we're just gonna keep doing what we're doing. I hope this tutorial helped you guys just to get started on video editing, and thank you again for 1,000 subscribers. I know it's kind of cheesy, but each and every one of you matter. Things are just gonna get better from here on out, but as always, take my words with a grain of rice.